Hello, shiny crafty people. It's Tim Totten here. Welcome back to the channel. If you're watching in the replay, thank you so much for joining us in the future. But I have just finished up a moment ago a video that debuted live on YouTube about 14 crafting and sewing items at Dollar Tree's back to school sale. So if you're watching in the replay, I'll have a link to that video in the description below. Otherwise, if you're coming to me live, give me a little heads up, say hi, let me know where you're coming from. Like Donna, thank you so much for joining me. And it'll be great as we all get together. So I'm just going to let everybody know to don't forget to join the live Q&A starting right now. So I'll send that to everyone that's over in the other chat. And I see people are popping in here already. So what I'm going to do today is talk about some of the details of some extra things that I found at the Dollar Tree when I went back another time. Good morning, Norma and Heidi. Thank you for coming. I did go into another Dollar Tree. I'll cover that in just a minute. And you might see behind me the quilt I'm currently working on. This is the Town Square quilt pattern. And you may notice if you only watch the last video and you don't get my posts on YouTube, that I've added some border to it. So I'm going right along. And so every TEDx every YouTube video creator, if they want to, is able to put community posts, which are basically like, just written posts with pictures. And if you follow my channel, you can see those. And I put those about once a week or so. And I did post a picture of me putting on the border here for this quilt behind me. So that will be one of my next videos coming out, is finishing up this quilt. Katrina, good morning again. Maysel Given from West Virginia. Good to have you with me. Heidi, thank you so much. I'd love to answer any questions you may have either about Dollar Tree or even quilting or sewing or anything else you want to talk about this morning. We'll be on here for about 30 or 40 minutes, I would expect. I want to, again, say hello to everybody who's coming in. Maria, good morning. Tim and all the other crafty people, thank you so much. Uvalda says, I finally made it to your live. Yeah, you're here. So you could interact with me live by typing into the chat. So I'm happy to have you here for that. I was just telling people about the Town Square quilt pattern behind me that I've been working on. I like big, colorful, bright stuff. So I have these gorgeous batiks in the middle and then black and white. And then I have a batik along the side for the border. So you see that going up. And then I went ahead and did that white gray border. So I do want to talk about the another Dollar Tree that I went to. So you'll see that I had gone to a Dollar Tree in the Villages. The Villages is a very large retirement community in Florida, sort of northwest of Orlando. It has grown and grown and grown. It now stretches, I think, across 4 counties. And it is like an independent, its own taxing district. So it's sort of like a corporation that runs a city kind of a thing. It's very unusual. There are, at least at last count that I remember, more than 150,000 rooftops, meaning housing units in the community. It's huge. And I was there giving a talk about Frank Lloyd Wright, my favorite architect. You'll see I'm wearing a Frank Lloyd Wright shirt. And I had time to stop before my talk, and I did stop at the Dollar Tree in the Villages. And it was strategic. I figured I'm going to go do a back to school shop because they'll have extra back to school stuff. But because the Villages is a 55 plus community, there's only like a charter school there in the Villages, and it's mostly designed for students of people who work in the Villages. So there aren't any young people, children living in the Villages with people or very few if there are any. So it's more the workers' families, and very great school, by the way. But I figured the Dollar Tree's probably not been overrun and I wouldn't have to pick through the remnants of the back to school stuff. So I went and found great stuff. But then I went to the Dollar Tree around the corner from me and I figured, well, they all get the same stuff. Well, I found some stuff I hadn't seen at the Dollar Tree in the Villages. So Mary Beth says, I love these sessions. Thank you. You're welcome. I hope you'll interact. Heidi says, are you going to do a video when you bind the quilt behind you? Absolutely. So I've been shooting the video of the border that I've been putting on, and I will be binding it. And I am going to shoot a video talking about binding. For this one, I'm going to machine bind the top of the binding. And then when I fold it over to the back, it's not a very big quilt, so I'll probably hand stitch the backing and And this quilt may stay with me or it may be given as a gift. I still haven't decided yet. Let's see. Katrina, our closest Dollar Tree is a nightmare of boxes. You know what? I've been to some that are like that. I think a lot of that has to do with how much they give, they give their staff time to do things, or how they staff the store. And it's been fascinating to me to watch retail, especially for these companies. Joann Fabrics used to do this a lot. They'd say, well, your numbers don't support you having more than 2 people working in the store. Well, if only 2 people are working in the store, one of them has to be on the register and the other one's out trying to help people or put away stock. So there's never time to put away stock. So you can't get the stock out on the shelves so that people can buy it, which will up your numbers, which will mean you can have more people working in the store. It's like a spiral. I don't get sometimes how corporate stuff works. It seems crazy to me. So I think Dollar Tree has a similar thing. And sometimes you get one person who's maybe not that eager to put out a lot of stuff, and they just take their time and it doesn't get out. I do think sometimes I watch these employees at some of these stores and they are just working themselves to the bone to get all this stuff out. And I think, how much love do you get from your bosses for working harder? Probably you get more work. Let's see. Maisel, do you ever do embroidery? Nope. Don't like embroidery at all. I'm glad that you do. Doing hand embroidery, I have no idea. It would just give me I would have difficulty just spending the time, putting that much effort and sitting down and concentrating. I just can't really concentrate that much. Plus, I'm just not a huge embroidery person. It's not my cup of tea. So as you can see, I'm into more big geometry. So embroidery doesn't do that for me. But hey, I watch people fly with those embroidery machines and just do the cutest, loveliest little things. I think it's so cute. Vicky says, I love the quilt behind you. Yes, thank you so much. And I will be finishing it up in a video in the next couple weeks. Maria, I went to one of my Michaels and the selection they have of fabric is less than Walmart. Yeah, very limited. I'm talking about Pembroke Pines, which is south of me. Absolutely. I'm in Central Florida. Maria, I think big companies just have trouble moving too quickly. I think Michaels will add some fabric. They've certainly done that in their online portion, hoping to grab some of the online sales that Joann's had experienced. And of course, they did buy Joann.com. They bought the digital assets of Joann. So, their goal is to convert any digital Joann buyers into digital Michaels buyers. They'll have to decide what they get rid of out of their stores to put in more fabric. So they might not get rid of things. We don't know. We're just still seeing what's going to happen. Heidi, I went to the Villages last month to get my brother Stell Air 2. Fantastic. Yeah, Evelda, having a hard time finding fabric since Joann's closed. Me too. And my biggest concern is what happens for future sewers. Remember, if someone taught you to sew, then you saw fabric in their stash. And then when you decided to go out on your own, you could go to a fabric store and buy it. Well, some kid learning how to sew today is never going to have a store they can walk into and see a vast range of fabrics. They're going to get a bunch of character cottons and flannels at Michaels, and that's about it. And they're going to get pre-cuts at Walmart. You can't even touch the fabric at Walmart that's pre-cut. And it seems that Walmarts are getting rid of their cutting tables. The ones that still have cutting tables, I'm hearing they're being remodeled out, which seems like the wrong time. Margaret, excellent Dollar Tree finds. I'm always happy to hear the reminder to not use canned air to clean your sewing machine. Please. Yeah, don't do that. All it does is push all of the lint and fuzz into the machine. So, who would love it is the guy or girl who maintains your sewing machines for you and, collects their $100 to $200 service fee when you take your machine in, because you're going to need a machine service more often. So just don't do it. Best scenario is to use a vacuum tube attachment. You can buy a specific attachment for your vacuum that has brushes and that vacuums through. That's the best thing to do. Absolutely. Katrina says, how's your Manx quilt going? I am making a very specific Manx quilt. Now, the one I showed in the video that I made, I can't make a bunch of those blocks because I didn't buy enough of that fabric. It was a jelly roll from Joann's, and now they're gone, so I can't buy that same fabric. I've started another one that I'm not even going to reveal anytime soon, because it's going to be a gift for a friend of mine who he says he's never been given a quilt. And in fact, when he tried to buy a quilt at a charity event, he won the quilt, but one of his coworkers was like, "Oh, I really wanted to win that. I just stopped bidding against you because it looked like it was going to get too pricey. So I did win this other thing, this trip to a weekend trip to the beach. Would you trade me for the quilt?" And she really wanted the quilt, so he did that. So I thought, you know what? Instead of you buying a quilt, I'm going to make you one. So I'm making him a quilt, and that one's actually going to have batting as part of the process to begin with. So that's going to be fun. But the problem is, it's going to take 56 or more pieces of those blocks. So I've been doing 2 or 3 a week, and I figure, by Christmas it'll be done. So let's see. Good morning from Minnesota, Jolene Barilla. How are you? Good to have you here. Share Bear. Hello, Share Bear. Nice to have you. So nice to see you. Did you find online fabric colors as expected? Vicky asks. I don't buy very much fabric online. I buy some things from Amazon for the convenience of them. And I've been working on maybe how to make quilts out of layer cakes. And the difficulty for me is I'm cheap, and layer cakes of really well-known fabrics I can't use that word. They're really expensive. So I tend to buy cheap Amazon layer cakes to do my testing on. And those, who knows if they ever look like what the pictures are. So, Bobby, I think in the hoop embroidery would be interesting to you. Bobby, I have tried embroidery before. I don't like it. It's just not my thing. I'm not a flowers and rose petals type person. I'm not let's embroider a cute little ladybug. It just isn't interesting to me. And I tried crocheting. I could do long snakes of crochet, but figuring out the tension to go back and forth and do. And I don't like the feeling of crocheted items on myself. I've been given so many Afghans in the past, and I don't like the feeling of them. They're either too heavy or too scratchy or whatever. So I've just decided there are people who love doing that. I'm going to let them do it. I did knit scarves for a while, and I kind of enjoyed that. I thought that was kind of fun. I'm terrible with chopsticks, but I'm really good with embroidery needles. So not embroidery needles. I'm sorry, knitting needles. I had a lot of fun with those, but it was a season. It was sort of like learning. When I was 38, I decided to do a whole bunch of stuff. I decided to say yes to a whole bunch of things and try them. And one of them was I tried to learn how to play the violin, and I took 6 months worth of lessons, and I got okay enough that you wouldn't mind listening to it. And that's done. I'm good. I've learned it. I don't have to do it anymore. It's not something I'm in love with. Heidi says, my niece is trying to learn to sew. I told her to try going to the secondhand store and upcycle. Absolutely. And here's a good secret tip that I've seen so many times from other people, and I wish I'd thought of it when I was doing videos about this, and so I might do some in the future. The 2 and 3X men's dress shirts, lots of fabric in them. Lots of fabric, because the sleeve alone is half a yard of fabric. So you can literally get good, or like nice, big, long dresses have lots of fabric in them. So that's a really good idea. Will you show us how to bind the Manx quilt in another video? Absolutely. I'm going to show you how to put the Manx quilt together and how to bind it. Kim, Walmart won't have to hire people that can measure fabric with pre-cuts. Yeah, absolutely. That's the main reason I would think they're doing it. The problem is right now they don't have anybody working in the fabric section. So every person I've talked to who does have a cutting table in their at their Walmart says they have to go find somebody in like sporting goods to cut their fabric for them. So that's kind of crazy. Muriel Hansen says, good morning from Lehigh Acres in Florida. Well, good morning. Bunch of Florida people on this morning. I love having you here. And she also says, I've been making my own layer cakes and jelly rolls from my massive collections of fabric. Well, if you decide to sell any, no, not really, but that's fun. That's interesting. One of the things that's interesting for me is that when I buy really nice, well-made jelly rolls and layer cakes from well-known manufacturers, they're very particular about the size, but I have found some major size problematic stuff when I buy them from Amazon or somewhere else, because they come in who knows manufactured where, and sometimes they're, they say they're 12-inch squares, and they're really 11 3/4 by 12, and then that pinking sheared edge isn't always to the full width. It's kind of crazy. Okay, so I want to show you some things. I bought a few more things at my Dollar Tree. Like I said, I went to the Dollar Tree around the corner from my house, and I just had time to stop in there. I thought, I just want to see if there's anything different in there. And holy cow, there was some other stuff. So you may also find at your Dollar Tree. I found 3 more items. This was in the back to school section, these zippered plastic, envelopes. What I really like about these is this is like such a simple way to keep projects together. So you get some of these. They're gusseted on the side, which I like. So they actually will pop open if you put a lot of stuff in them. They become a good size. You can get a lot of papers or other fabric or other stuff in them. I like these because at $1.25, you can buy a couple of them and keep a number of projects together if you're piecing something small together. So those are kind of fun. You can also just use big Ziploc bags, but they're not always this thick of a material. This is a little bit better than Ziploc. So I like that. I also found, and I have no idea why it's shaped like this. I don't know why it's bounced up in the middle. It just says it's an organizer case from Jot, which is like their own line of stuff. But what I liked about it is all of these compartments in it. You'll notice it's got all these different size compartments, and these are they're kind of scooped. You see there? Like I don't really quite know why, but what I liked about it is all the different sizing. This would be really great for like bobbins and pins and just small things, buttons, other stuff like that. And it does close really, really well. Now they are scooped this way. So I think maybe the reason why it goes up and down under is so that they'll stack up on each other. I didn't buy more than one. I don't really have a need to, but I think it's designed so you can get quite a few stack on each other. So could be the reason for that. And lastly, I bought these magnetic boxes. And what I like about these is they're actually plastic, but they have a strong magnet on the bottom, which is great if you have a file cabinet or anything else metal around you. Or you want to stick this to the side of your metal machine. If you have a metal machine, you could store small things in here. I just like small containers like this. And one of the things that you can do that I think is a really good idea is just, if you've got like space in your office or your workspace where you're sewing, and you have somebody in your life who's really good with metalwork or other stuff, you can get them to mount for you a relatively small piece of metal. You can get it cut special, or you can just buy like a sign blank or something else. Make sure it's a metal that's magnetic. You don't want aluminum because that stuff won't stick to it. Magnetic stuff won't stick. But you can then use that to have all kinds of magnet things that fit on. And there are all kinds of cool magnet items that will fit on those things. And these were nice, these little magnetic boxes. They're not very big. This is maybe, of course, there's no size on here, but these are maybe 2.5 to 3 inches wide at the most, and about 1.25 inches tall. And like I said, they are plastic, but they have a clear look through the middle. So I think that's pretty fantastic. And I bought some cards. They have cards too for $1, like greeting cards. And I can't stand greeting cards given to me if they're expensive. So like my mother loves greeting cards. Like it's her favorite thing to do is to write a card and send it to people. She loves to get a card. And so, but every time I do, I flip it over and look and see somebody paid $4 for a piece of paper to send to me. That just drives me nuts. I'm like, no, don't do that. Send me $4. Like that would make more sense. Yvelda says magnetic strips can be found at Harbor Freight. Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes those are magnetic strips that have magnets in them so you can connect metal things to it. So I'm suggesting more put a piece of metal on your wall and then you can buy magnetic things to stick to it. So there is a little bit of a difference there, but those magnet strips are also great. You know where also I've gotten good magnet strips? At IKEA. You can buy like the knife strips that are magnets in them. And sometimes they're made of wood and other stuff too, but they'll have a magnet embedded in them. And then you can put your metal things to attach to it. There's not as much metal stuff in a sewing room when you think of like what our tools are like, except for maybe scissors. And you could easily use that because they're usually thin strips, and then you can pop your scissors on there, especially if you have different kinds of scissors. So I am working on a couple of videos coming up. One of them is going to be how to not only add the borders to this quilt, and you'll see that I added, I didn't want to just put a black border on this, a big chunky black border. So what I did is I added another batik that I have for the back of this one. And then I added a 4.5-inch strip of the white fabric. So that this whitish gray, it's kind of a mottled sort of look. I like the look of it. Makes it feel like marble, so to speak. And then I'll put a black binding on the bottom of this. And that's going to be really helpful, I think, to make this. So I'm going to do a video where I show you how to add the border all around it, and I'll discuss what it takes. And it really helped make this quilt big enough for me to use either as a supplement on my bed or laying in sitting on my couch and watching TV and having a blanket to cuddle up with. And then I am going to show you the quilt sandwich as I do that. I have some real thin, warm and natural, real thin, natural fabric, batting I'm going to use. And then I am going to pin base this using curved, it's like on my head, curved safety pins. And I like a curved safety pin because when you go to put that into the quilt sandwich, you push down and you can easily pull it up. You're not having to pull so hard on a straight one. And then I bought a pin basting tool. It opens and closes your pins easily. So what I want to show you this tool. I've had one before and I just don't know where it is. So I bought a new one. So I did end up buying, how many is this? 200 curved safety pins. Because I used to have those too. And now I'm not sure where they are. The odds are they're at my, my workshop for my company. But the truth is, if they're there and they're using them, I'm not going to take them home and use them for my own quilt. And then it would mean I'd have to make the quilt faster. So I'd rather do this. So here's the pin basting tool. And this is the serious part at the end. This is what's most important for this. Because those two little lines there, you see sort of their cutout lines on the, we'll do it for my shirt, you can see it better. Those lines are what I'm going to need, because basically I'm going to take this pin and put it into the fabric, and then I hold this on the side of it, and I can then rest the end of this pin up against it, and then I just push down, and now it's hooked through the fabric. And I'll be showing this much better in the video. I'll give you an idea here. Here's the fabric is laying flat. I put the material in, pop it up, I lay this underneath, and then I do that. I basically push, let me show this one. I push down and it hooks. So you're not hurting your fingers. You've done enough of these where you're pushing it and using your fingers, and then pretty soon you got lines in your thumb. I mean, I already have line there I already have a mark there on my finger just from doing that. And also here just from holding the stupid thing. So after 200 of those, you're going to be hurting, right? Like, so instead of doing that, you use this $9 tool from Amazon, and it looks nice. It's made out of wood. It's got a little leather or fake leather strap on it. It's sturdy. This thing's not going anywhere. You can almost use it as a stylus if you needed to push fabric and other stuff. I mean, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use it for its intended purpose. And I'm going to just put it away because I'll look for this box when it's time to use it. And if I can't find the box, I won't be able to find it. So I'll put a link when I make the video. I'll put a link for this from Amazon. Now, look, the only reason I put from Amazon is because that's the easiest place to find these things. You can certainly go to a quilt store, and the odds are they have this and the curved pins. I just shop more often on Amazon. So, and full disclosure, if I share a link to you from Amazon, the odds are it's my affiliate link, which means that anytime you buy something from that link, whether it's these items or something else, as long as you initiate it with that link, then they give me like 3% of the purchase, which is crazy good. I mean, I never tell anyone to buy $1,000 items, so it's not like I'm making gigantic money at a time, but it buys me lunch every couple of weeks. So it's kind of nice. I always appreciate when people do that. Let's see. Maria says, I've been doing those pins for years. Well, you've saved your fingers, haven't you? Because it's so much work. So much work. All right. Well, we've been going for a little while now. We'll probably go for 5 or 6 more minutes. If there are questions in the chat, I've been going on for a little while now. I am So if you put a question in the chat, I will cover it. I am going to do a few videos coming up. So there'll be one about creating the backing for this quilt, and I'm piecing a backing together for a very basic reason, just because I just didn't want to see a back with just a one line of stitching through the middle, because I had to piece two pieces of fabric together. So I'm sort of making it a fractured back of the quilt. And so that's a little sneak peek for you. And then I'll have a video also about adding the borders and doing the quilt sandwich and binding. So that'll be a series of videos. And then I'm doing a video on 9 myths or lies about sewing and quilting, and really just debunking some of those things you may have heard if you're a new sewer. The truth is, this channel only accidentally started because I was making masks during COVID. And what I found is that a lot of my viewers were people saying, you know, I haven't sewn before, or I used to sew years ago and I'm getting back into it and I really don't know what I'm doing. And so I have a lot of new people on this channel. Now, some of you have been quilting and sewing forever. Some of you have been comfortable with a sewing machine for 60 or more years. And so I hope I show you some new stuff. But a lot of what I put out is definitely to make sure to debunk this for people who think, oh, I could never tackle that. My goal is to make sure that what I show you is an easy way to do these things. And so you don't feel intimidated, that you could tackle a quilt like this, even if you've never made a quilt before. And hopefully from that first video, you feel like that. And I think showing you how to do the other parts, you can certainly will feel like, oh, I could do that. That doesn't sound so difficult. Our quilt store in DeLand closed years ago. Joann's was the only place to get stuff. Now I have to look online, and that's not cheap. You're right. And also, you know, just finding, even going into a quilt store. And I'm going to tell you, I love quilt stores. I go to them all the time. I just went to a newer one in my area. Hopefully I'll have them on the channel at some point soon. I am going to go talk to the guys over at So Many Things. Cute name, right? Because they have a lovely quilt store. And actually I bought the black and white fabrics here from there. And I bought the batik that's going to be in the back, and that's in this border. From that other local quilt shop whose name I can't remember at the moment, but they're kind of tucked away and hidden away here in Lake County. So I will definitely be featuring and explaining where I got their fabric. But, you know, I went and bought that batik cotton fabric, 44-inch wide, and it was like $13 a yard, which if you've been used to buying designer quilt fabrics for a while, then that's fine. But I used to shop at Walmart and Joann's all the time. Like, I like a $3.99 a yard fabric. And I think that's kind of going away, isn't it? The reality is, though, that that's why I've shown a couple of projects, at least one project so far from Walmart that you can make with pre-cuts, because I think people are going to say, I want to start sewing and I don't know where to start. And for many of us, that means, how do I do it cheap? So if I mess it up, I don't feel like I've just wasted huge amounts of money. I mean, this quilt alone behind me is probably $200 in fabric when I get to the end of it. And so that's because, well, it's batiks, and I bought from all quilt stores. So that's a little more expensive, obviously. But the real problem also becomes, quilt stores are lovely because they have quilting fabrics, but they don't carry apparel fabrics. I'm really worried about people who want to make apparel who are just stuck. There's just no way to do it anymore because there aren't apparel fabric stores. Even when I went to Hancock's of Paducah, which, just so everyone knows, is not affiliated with the old Hancock fabric. They weren't like a Hancock fabric that turned into their own store. Like, Hancock's fabric was bought by somebody and closed and whatever else years ago. This is called Hancock of Paducah, or Hancock's of Paducah. I'm not remember which one. I've been there. I was completely mesmerized by how much fabric they have. That's a really great stop if you're driving through Kentucky near Paducah. Stop. It's amazing. But even that store is all basically quilting cotton. It's not a lot of great pre-cuts, a lot of amazing patterns and other stuff. Like, I really loved it, but they do a lot of theirs online as well, but they're not really selling apparel fabric. I remember when I was a teenager and wanting to learn how to sew, and some of you have heard this story before. My 2 grandmothers taught me how to sew because I asked one of them to make me a Star Trek costume. And she said, you know what? No, I'm not going to make it for you. I'll teach you how to make one. And I thought, I don't want to learn how to sew. And then the other grandmother said, well, no, she's already called me to tell me you're going to try to come ask me this. So no, we're not going to make it for you. We're going to teach you how to make it. So I had to learn how to sew. I could walk into Joann Fabrics and find wool gabardine to make a Star Trek costume or other fabrics. I would have 7 or 8 different possible fabrics I could choose from. That's not happening today. There's not a place I could go to and be that kid again, trying to find that fabric. And that's pretty sad. And I don't mean like a national place. There's almost no place unless I travel to New York City to the garment district and I go through these huge stores, these stores where they're packed floor to ceiling with fabric options. I'm just not going to find that. So that was a lovely time in our country history here in the U.S. when we could do that, when there was local options. And I don't think we're getting that back. It doesn't seem like it's a possibility. So Judith, hello, Tim. Hello, Judith. Thanks for being here. All right. So we are, Judith, if you just joined us, we've covered a number of fascinating things and we're getting ready to leave. So you've come just at the end if that's the case. Heidi says, I bought a fabric kit for my first in the hoop applique quilt with the USB. It was $300 for it, not including the batting, backing, and stabilizer. Wow. Yeah, isn't that crazy? The costs are crazy. Now, listen, I'm never going to complain about what someone charges for a kit because I can't imagine how much work goes into cutting all the fabric pieces and bundling it all together and all of that. And you absolutely, it's problematic, but also like I think those people deserve to be paid to do all that stuff. But holy cow, like it can just get crazy expensive. Hello, Kim, Vicky, Hobby Lobby for fabric. Absolutely, Hobby Lobby does have some fabric. Hobby Lobby, in my mind, is in its own category for a couple of reasons. It still is mostly quilting cotton fabrics or crafting fabrics, not quite so much of a apparel fabric store, even though they have some of it. Oh, and don't mention home deck fabric because that's all gone too, except Hobby Lobby does have some. One of the issues that Hobby Lobby has is that it is a place that I don't regularly shop. I don't regularly shop there because I have some personal issues with their choices of how to operate as a company. Now, that doesn't mean other people need to feel bad about going to Hobby Lobby. If you want to go to Hobby Lobby, please do it. Please, absolutely. I'm not going to complain about that. But I will tell you, I've been going into Hobby Lobby for the last couple months since Joann announced they were closing. And they haven't responded to Joann's closing either. So the apparel fabric that I've seen still doesn't have the breadth of the options that Joann had in the past or had even at the end of this. So it's hard for me to say like, oh, that's the solution. I don't think they are. I don't think there's anybody who's the solution to what Joann lost. That's just part of how that goes. I've been trying to make a video about Hobby Lobby because I've been into 7 of their stores in the last 4 months. And without a window looking out, I can't tell them in a different store. They're all pretty much exactly the same. So it's hard for me to say, hey, there's different kinds of Hobby Lobbies. So I'm trying to figure out how I give what I can add to the conversation about Hobby Lobby that's not just going to open up a whole conversation about their politics. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what to do with that in terms of a video. Share Bear, you have to go into Michael's for fabric. Well, not really apparel fabric. Problem with apparel fabric at Michael's is they have a couple of pieces of costume fabric, and that's about it. Even the ones that have a full 3 rows of fabric, it's still very minimal and limited, and no home decorator fabric. So if you're trying to make curtains or pillows out of like nice embroidered home fabric, like that's almost impossible to do. And they haven't changed yet. They're still working on it. If anyone knows of like really cool one-off stores or a couple of stores together, like a small chain that still does lots of fabrics, not just quilting fabrics, right? Meaning home deck fabrics and apparel fabrics across the country. In the US, I'm not traveling outside of the US until next year. So if it's in the US, please share with me where that is, because the odds are I might be, I'm going to think I'm going to Southern California in January. I'm going to be in Chicago in October. I'm going to be in New York State near Buffalo and Rochester next June, I think. So those are all some options. So I want to see in-person stores that people can go and shop at, and to test them out, and also to make some videos to share with you what stuff I find in those stores, like I did with Hancock's Paducah, like I was able to do with the Quilt So Green, that crafting and sewing thrift store up in Rochester, New York. And if you have any others that are like that are kind of like resale stores where people can donate their stashes, because we all have a lot of stuff in our stash. Frankly, we could do a huge amount of Vicky, I think maybe you meant Vegas, I hope. So yeah, in Vegas, or what is Vegas otherwise? Mood in Miami. I haven't, but next time I'm in Miami, I can definitely check it out. That would be kind of fun. I don't go to Miami that often. I live in Florida, so I'm already hot. I don't want to be even hotter by going south. So in Pinellas County, they have a store called Jay's Fabrics. You think it's a true fabric store? Well, I'll definitely check it out if that's the case. Let's see, Jay's M&L in California. I love these. Susan says, I'm in Tampa. Okay. Musette in New Jersey. Hello, Musette. Nice to see you. So, Vicky, you said, so yeah, in Vegas. I love it. Okay, so I'm just going to make a little note for myself because I want to make sure I'm adding it into my phone. So, yeah, in Vegas. I love this. My phone says, you couldn't have possibly been meant to say the word so. After all the stuff I type into my phone about sewing, it thinks I meant to say R, A-R-E. Anyway, so yeah, in Vegas, let's see, we had Mood in Miami. And then we had, let's see, M&L in California. Are you saying Southern California, or I'm sure I can Google it. Let's see. Oh, San Diego. Maria, San Diego is where Eleanor Burns is with Quilt in a Day. She probably gets this regularly, but I'm going to tell you right now, Eleanor Burns taught me a lot about sewing and quilting, and I love, love, love her. Between her and Sewing with Nancy, it was my PBS after school special. Everybody else was watching cartoons and I was watching these ladies. So pretty crazy. Let's see. So Quilt in a Day is in San Diego. Nice to hear. So I haven't been to San Diego and I hear it's fantastic. So I've got to go. Let's see. M&L. So yeah. Mood in my Jay's Fabrics in Pinellas County. I know you just love watching me type into my phone, right? Oh, Fabrics in Atlanta, Georgia. I want to find Fabrics in Atlanta, Georgia. They actually have 2 locations now, about 200 yards. I went to find fabric. Share Bear. Fine Fabric. Okay. Yeah, I think I found them while I was Googling. And I thought, and they were a big store, right? Did they have more, Share Bear, did they have more than just sewing and quilting fabric? Was it other stuff too? Crafts and Bits in Fairport, New York. Oh, I love that. And Bits in Fairport. And here's the hilarious thing. To me, it's hilarious. You might not think it's that funny. No, New York, not by, B-Y. So, Maureen, it's hilarious. So in June, end of June, I was in the Rochester, Buffalo area giving talks about Frank Lloyd Wright, world's famous architect, right? So I'm a expert on Frank Lloyd Wright's life and work. It's one of my many things that I'm obsessed with. So I get to travel the country and talk about Wright's life and work to groups all over the place, and they pay for my travel, and it's fantastic. I love it, absolutely. I gave a talk at the Fairport Library, right? I walk up to this library that's in a strip center, but a nice strip, like a really nice strip center. And right next to it is a place called Crafts and Bits that had just closed. Like literally they had just locked the doors. And I was like, ah. And then they weren't going to be open the next day. And I was staying on the other side of town. And I was like, I have to go. I want to go. Oh. So I didn't get to go in. But next time I'm up there, because I was definitely invited back to the library to speak again, I will absolutely make sure that I go in there. So I'm going to make a time specifically to go in there. Um, Gail K Fabrics has 2 locations in Atlanta. Thank you, Dream Daisy Ray. Gail K Fabrics, Atlanta. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone's feedback in here. So fantastic to have you all on this live. And I'm going to wrap it up because this will be a video people can watch later. And I just imagine those people going, "Why is he just talking to all the people in the chat?" So, Maureen, I'll also check out So Creative. So thank you so much. All right, folks, this is a fantastic Saturday here in Florida. It's roughly the temperature of the surface of the sun here in August. So I am going to try to stay inside as much as I can. However, Brad, who's looking through the fridge right now, trying to find something to eat, it looks like, he just finished a run in the Florida heat because he's crazy. Mentally ill, and he's now been outside watering plants because he loves plants, and he doesn't let me near them because I kill plants. I love them, but they don't like me. So I just look at them and they're beautiful. So he's cooling down from his run in 90-something degree weather, but he needs new running shoes because he keeps running. I keep telling him, if you stop running, you wouldn't need new running shoes. But good for him. It keeps him in good shape, and he loves it. So considering that he's a couple of years older than I am, I want him to stay in good shape. You know, I got to have him around for a while. So we are going to go buy him some new running shoes in an actual store. Like, we're physically going to go. We're still old enough that we like to go to a store and try on shoes and touch them rather than ordering them just on the internet. So we're going to do shop for that. I think we're going to maybe stop at the Italian restaurant / deli store they have down in Claremont. That's a part of Florida right outside of Orlando. And I might buy a few Italian items for cooking, since cooking is my forte, not taking care of the animals. So we're going to do that. And then we might have dinner at one of the magical dining locations in Central Florida. Something they started years ago to support charity. And all these restaurants have a special menu they put out for their restaurant alone. And for a specific set price, not only do you get that menu, and it's a full course, it's like a 3 or 4 course meal, but then they give a certain amount of money to charity. So we're probably going to go do that tonight, maybe at the Greek place, or maybe it's Turkish. I know they don't like me not figuring out which one's which. So it might be Turkish. I don't want to say Greek because the server usually loses his mind because they're real Turkish people in there, or they're real Greek people who don't like Turkish people. I'm not sure how that works. Let's see. Couple things before we go. Yes, Stream Daisy Ray, it is refreshing to actually go into a store. It is, absolutely. And I don't do it very often, but I love when I can actually go in, feel and touch stuff. And in fact, I'm probably going to go back to a couple of TJ Maxx or Home Goods and look for some more crafting, sewing stuff if I can come up with some new ideas. Julie in Lakewood, New Jersey, there's a big fabric store called Stitch and Sew. I'm going to put that on my list right now. It's the only thing that I have a problem with when I go into these really big stores. It's what I had. If you watch the video I did about, the video that I did about Hancock's and Paducah I was overwhelmed by how much fabric there was. It was just so much. I really felt paralyzed by choice because there was so much to choose from. I needed somebody to go around with me and hold my hand and be like, well, these would be good together. You know, like, it's almost one of those where I had these boutiques for 2 years before I actually decided what to do with this. So Gail says, I love it when you speak about the importance of PBS. I also you watch it every Saturday. Absolutely. The best thing for me was they ran Sewing with Nancy and Quilt in a Day back to back at my local PBS station every afternoon during the week. So I would come home, and instead of watching Beverly Hillbillies reruns, I'm watching those videos. So even in the summer, I could just watch these sewing and quilting videos. It was really fantastic. And what I learned a lot from specifically Nancy Zeman, and I got to go to her store in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. They were in the middle of some renovation stuff, so it really wasn't an appropriate time for me to film there. I'll probably do that when I go back to Madison next April and May. I'll probably try to get in there and do some video with them. Is that what I learned mostly from Nancy was that you could tackle a huge project. She would like make a whole lady's suit like start to finish with every little bit and part. And she taught it in such a way that you could actually understand, why is this stabilizer going this way? What will happen if you don't clip these corners? And just so fantastic as a teacher. I love that very much. And so if you like the way that I do my own videos, much of that is because I learned how to teach sewing from two really amazing people, both Nancy Zeman with Sewing with Nancy and from Elena Burns Quilts in a Day. And so I will end with exactly what Nancy Zeman used to say all the time. So I'll say my part. Until next time, folks, stay crafty. And as she said, bye for now.